Today I'm going to drive a school bus up a hill. Yes, I'd be fairly underwhelmed if I heard that as well, except that it's not any old school bus, and it's certainly not any old hill. See, the thing is, this is called a Torsus Praetorian. It is the Mad Max of coaches. It is the F-150 of buses, and it can take you and 34 of your mates pretty much wherever you want to go. And this behind me, well, that is Mount Etna here in Sicily, and it is a live volcano. So technically, yes, I'm going to drive a school bus up a hill, but it's more like driving a monster coach up a live volcano.
It's worth mentioning here that Torsus is a really interesting company in itself. The parent company, Pulsar Expo, is actually a husband and wife team from Ukraine that used to do specialist conversions for specific applications, mining companies, the United Nations and the like. But they realised that on site, companies were moving large amounts of people inefficiently in pickups and big SUVs. The takeaway being that no one made a proper off-road bus. There were Unimogs with boxes on the back, but nothing that moved lots of people over rough terrain in comfort. Cue the light bulb moment, and cue the Praetorian. Interestingly, even though the buses are made in Slovakia, all the other Praetorians are currently on duty helping the humanitarian effort in Ukraine, and the office in Kyiv is still operating. The CEO and co-owner of Torsus, Vakhtang Zhukashvili, told Top Gear that there's a saying in Ukraine that translates as, "Freedom is our religion." Hence the trucks being sent out to help with evacuations and refugee movements, which is very cool. And there are more versions. Imagine all the places it could get used: big mines, quarries, evacuations, rescues, all the stuff that needs to transport lots of people over rough terrain. There's even talk of an electric version for forestry. Torsus also offers a smaller bus based on the VW Crafter 4x4, and that will be more useful for smaller groups. But to be useful in Ukraine, the Praetorian has to be made of pretty stern stuff. So we're going to make sure it's fit for purpose. But first, let's pull over and take a closer look before we get to the difficult stuff.
Now what it is an MAN four-wheel drive truck chassis that's had a space frame basically parked on top of it. Now that internal cage is then clothed in really tough plastic body panels, which are also easy to replace if you break one. And then you can make that basic structure into pretty much whatever you want. So you can make a coach like this, or you can make an ambulance, a mobile workshop, pretty much anything. The interesting stuff though is under here. Now this thing weighs 13,400 kilos in its basic format, and you think that would make it a little bit slow, but up under here is a 6.9 litre straight six diesel with 290 brake horsepower. Now that doesn't really sound like much until you find out it's also got 848 pounds-feet of torque, and after that there's a low-range gearbox and all the diff locks you'll ever need. This should make it off-road where others can't.
And you do need all that ruggedness. Etna is a very lively volcano and the highest active volcano in Europe, hanging out at just under 11,000 feet at its highest point and spread over about 600 miles here on the east coast of Sicily. It smokes constantly and erupts with alarming regularity, at least in terms of geological features. In July 2001, it erupted for several weeks, but they were what they call strombolian eruptions, where trapped gas shoots out lava or chunks of rocks. They're the pretty common ones. The last being February of this year. And what do humans do with such a violent aspect? They run tours up it, of course. The Torsus is being used as a tour bus here, something capable of taking lots of people up pretty serious off-road tracks in comfort. I'm not sure this is a completely good idea, but there you go.
And when you get up here, it's pretty much like any other big lorry or bus. So it's got a Tipmatic gearbox, and you can split the gears to give you more range. And then it's just like any other modern coach. So there's air conditioning for every passenger, a USB port in every seat, and an inability to do graceful three-point turns. But it's actually very comfortable and very easy to drive. Once you're used to the size and you've got the space, this thing is pretty much unstoppable. It's a little bit noisy, mind.
But it's good at what it does. Okay, so it's not exactly a magic carpet ride on these roads, but the oily bits underneath this thing are proven MAN mechanicals, so it's pretty much bulletproof. And the fact that everything is warranted by MAN and serviceable globally means that you can keep your Praetorian running via any MAN supplier. That's important when you need to keep the bus working. And work it does.
You just plug in the correct settings on the diff locks down here, and after that it's like a giant Land Rover. It just goes over anything. With these big tyres, it kind of wanders across the terrain with no hassle. There's a low ratio gearbox as well, so you can just totter around without worrying. It's almost like riding a camel or being on an elephant. You kind of go with the rhythm of it and it just gently drives over anything at all. And once you're used to the way this car has a cadence over rough ground, it's quite cool. The one thing I did notice though, the driver gets an air suspended seat, nobody else does. So it's much better if you're the driver. Sorry everyone. But there is one problem with this kind of competency. And I find this with some of the very fastest supercars, in that they're so good at what they do, they're so fit for purpose, that the accident when you find it will be enormous. I think we'll be fine, as long as I don't drive it off a cliff.
It's properly beautiful. Etna itself has 3 distinct ecological zones, and they're pretty spectacular. The lowest one, up to about 3,000 feet, is full of olive groves and citrus plantations. Between that and about 6,500 feet are forests of beech, pine and chestnut. And up at the top it's just black ash, lava and slag. It's very post-apocalyptic. Enough so that when they want to take pictures of the Mars lander, they do it up here.
Wow! Look at this! This is what I imagine another planet looks like. But I can still breathe.
But it's more romantic than you might think. When you talk to the locals, they're incredibly fond of the volcano, and their passion shows. This is Maurizio, an international mountain guide who specialises in helping volcanologists do their thing, and he's an expert on his particular volcano, Mount Etna.
For us it's very special because it's a real cardinal point in our daily life. Mount Etna is a philosophy of life, because when you grow up so close to something so alive that can also be so destructive but still friendly, because the kind of volcanism of Etna is not classified an explosive one as the most dangerous volcanoes we have in the world. So once you know all this, you are grateful to our mother Etna. For us it's a female, it's not a male, because Mount Etna gives us back much more of what she takes in terms of quality of life. Talking about feeling, talking about beauty, talk about respect for the land on which we are just visitors. We don't own anything. We are owned by Mother Nature.
Which kind of makes you think the Praetorian might provide access to Etna, get you close and feel unstoppable, but we're here at the whim of the mountain. Like I said at the beginning, this isn't just any old bus, but this certainly isn't any old hill.
The best thing about the Praetorian is its fitness for purpose. It is a tool, but it's got a little bit of style. Plus, it allows you to see views like this and bring 34 of your mates with you.